There are women who carry histories so extensive, experiences so profound, that the psychological impact fundamentally changes their capacity for true commitment and genuine intimacy. They believe they have hidden their past, that the superficial layers of current behavior are enough to obscure the truth, but the human psyche is not so easily reset. You are about to learn the unavoidable, observable tells, the 9 subtle, yet undeniable signs that reveal a woman's true body count, the markers of a life lived by chasing novelty and prioritizing momentary gratification over lasting structure. This information is not offered for judgment. It is offered for clarity, for pattern recognition, and for the strategic preservation of your future emotional and financial well-being. Ignorance in this marketplace is not bliss. It is expensive. We are going to expose the reality that a history of numerous short-term, high-intensity relationships creates a form of psychological scar tissue, an emotional calculus that makes the stability and predictability of a dedicated partner feel insufficient, even boring. A woman can claim readiness for commitment. She can perform the perfect role of a devoted future wife, but these underlying shifts inevitably bleed into her behavior, her communication, and her capacity for genuine presence. These signs are not about guessing a number. They are about diagnosing the psychological health of the person you are considering building a legacy with. She can control her words, but she cannot hide the imprints left on her nervous system, on her attachment style, and on her deepest standards of satisfaction. You are watching this right now because you seek clarity in a world saturated with performance and deception, which means we share a commitment to recognizing reality. Tell me exactly where you are focusing on truth right now. We are building a global community dedicated to truth, and locating where this message is resonating is crucial to understanding the scope of this modern dynamic. Now, let us establish the foundation for the first set of signs. The female brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, during sex. This biological mechanism is designed to connect her to her partner, reinforcing the attachment necessary for long-term stability and raising children. The emotional impact of the bonding hormone diminishes with each instance. This leads to the first sign, which is often the most devastating to men seeking depth. In a low-history woman, physical closeness and intimacy create a deep emotional connection and a sense of vulnerability. She bonds, she relaxes, she feels genuinely safe. In a high-history woman, the physical act is often decoupled from the emotional state, the observable behavior. She struggles to maintain eye contact during moments of deep physical closeness, often retreating emotionally immediately afterward. She may be highly skilled in physical performance, but it feels mechanical or transactional, lacking the genuine spontaneity and emotional investment that characterizes deep attachment. She might use intimacy as a tool for conflict resolution, to gain reassurance, or to secure commitment, rather than viewing it as a celebration of the existing bond. The root cause: her neurological system has been trained to process the physical experience without the expected emotional consequence. This history makes it exceedingly difficult for her to experience the profound, stabilizing attachment that a long-term partner needs to feel valued. You are merely the provider in the present, while her emotional bandwidth remains limited by the ghosts of partners past who consumed the initial, high-potency bonding capacity. This detachment ensures she always has one foot out the door. Every man she encounters is unconsciously measured against the peak excitement provided by previous, typically high-status or highly exciting, low-commitment partners. When a woman has experienced high-intensity, fleeting connections, especially with men who might have been attractive but unsuitable for long-term commitment, she develops what is known as comparison disease, or hypergamy hangover. The constant seeking of novelty, the ease with which she discarded partners in her 20s, creates a deeply ingrained psychological pattern. When she finally settles, the stability you offer feels boring. The observable behavior: she exhibits subtle, nagging dissatisfaction with her current partner, even when he provides stability, reliability, and kindness. This manifests as constant criticism regarding mundane things: the way you dress, your choice of vehicle, your friends, your lack of spontaneous excitement, or even your emotional predictability. She may frequently bring up stories about previous relationships, often highlighting how an ex was more exciting, richer, or more charismatic. disguising these comparisons as funny anecdotes or lessons learned. The root cause. Her psychological equilibrium is calibrated too high. A stable, good man cannot compete with the neurological reward systems triggered by dating highly attractive, often non-committal men during her peak years. Her previous experiences have set an impossible benchmark for dopamine release within a stable, long-term context. You are the responsible man, the safety net. But deep down, she perceives you as the settlement prize, not the grand prize. A lifestyle characterized by frequent relationship cycling often requires maintaining a high level of market visibility and desirability. This reliance on external validation, the stream of male attention, affirmation of attractiveness, and validation of self-worth through pursuit, becomes a deeply ingrained psychological habit. The observable behavior. Even after establishing exclusivity, she struggles to turn off the performance of attractivity. She may maintain an active, curated social media presence focused on displaying her desirability, accepting validation from male orbiters, or dressing provocatively in environments that do not necessitate it. Crucially, she often experiences intense anxiety or emotional withdrawal if the attention from her primary partner wanes, indicating an inability to self-validate. Her self-worth remains tethered to how desirable she is perceived to be by the dating market, not how much she is genuinely valued by her partner. When the supply of external validation drops, as it must in a committed relationship, she unconsciously seeks ways to replenish it. This is not necessarily conscious infidelity, but it is a psychological signal that her attachment is still partly externalized. The stability you provide is accepted, but the thrill of being pursued, the psychological drug of her 20s, is desperately missed. These initial signs, the intimacy gap, the chronic comparison, and the externalized validation needs, form the unshakable foundation of a high-history psychology. She is trying to fit a square peg of extensive personal experience into the round hole of traditional partnership, and the behavioral contradictions are glaring if you know where to look. We are talking about the long-term, non-negotiable impact of biological reality on psychological outcomes. It cannot. The performance of commitment is always exposed by the reality of intimacy. These behaviors are not anomalies. They are the predictable manifestations of a woman whose capacity for healthy pair bonding has been significantly compromised by hyperavailability and the pursuit of superficial excitement. You must internalize this truth immediately. Recognizing these patterns is not cynicism, it is wisdom. Ignoring them is strategic suicide. The truth is, your shield against making a choice that costs you decades of peace and thousands of dollars in divorce court. You deserve clarity, and we are just scratching the surface of the signs that provide it. Subscribe to this channel. This is the only way to guarantee you receive the complete analysis that the algorithms attempt to suppress. Now I want to hear your primary concern based on this foundation. What is the one truth society constantly pressures men to ignore about a woman's past? That phrase is the core takeaway, the shield against self-deception. Type it now and lock in this crucial understanding. Part 2 is where we dissect the most controversial and explosive behavioral signs. We explore her relationship with control, the unavoidable tells in her communication style, and the surprising physical markers that betray her history. You think you know the signs, but the next set are the ones that are truly impossible to fake. You need to understand the true cost of the comparison game and why commitment becomes a performance instead of a partnership. Let me tell you something that most men desperately try to ignore. Something that whispers in the back of your mind, but that societal conditioning forces you to suppress. You are not just dating a woman, you are dating a history, and that history is not neutral. That extensive past, the years of casual encounters and relationship instability, does not simply disappear because she decides she is suddenly ready. It fundamentally alters her neurochemistry, her psychological framework, and her capacity for genuine pair bonding. We are talking about the deep, almost irreversible neurological consequences of high relationship fluidity. This isn't a moral debate. This is an examination of cause and effect, where past promiscuity leaves behind specific, observable psychological scars that she can no longer hide, especially once she hits that inflection point in her mid-30s. You need to understand these invisible markers, because they dictate whether you are building a life partner or simply funding a retirement plan disguised as a relationship. We are diving deep into the unmistakable behavioral signatures that reveal a woman's true relationship count and the resultant psychological damage. What city are you recognizing these patterns in? Drop your location in the comments now, because this dynamic transcends borders and cultures. The third sign that gives away a woman's extensive relationship history is the specific type of emotional amputation she displays, particularly her struggle with authentic intimacy and what psychologists term habituation to novelty. A woman whose brain has been consistently rewarded with the dopamine hit of new relationships, new partners, and new attention has fundamentally trained her reward system to crave instability and excitement over stable oxytocin-driven bonding. You will see this emotional amputation manifest in the bedroom first. Intimacy is no longer a genuine expression of commitment and unique connection. It becomes performative or duty-driven. She has mastered the ability to be physically present while remaining emotionally absent. For previous partners, this compartmentalization was the mechanism that allowed her to detach easily. There is always a subtle distance, a feeling that a piece of her is reserved, observing, and waiting for the next dopamine surge. This subtle lack of genuine warmth and the struggle to connect deeply during vulnerable moments is a direct, unavoidable psychological scar left by high relationship volume. The fourth pattern is the emergence of chronic dissatisfaction, which is the operational mechanism of the comparison disease we discussed earlier, but magnified and internalized. When a woman has repeatedly cycled through partners, her mind creates an idealized composite of the best parts of every man she has ever been with. The finance of the first, the looks of the second, the humor of the third, the sexual skill of the fourth. The problem is, no single man, including you, can ever measure up to this mythological composite. You are being held to a standard that is psychologically impossible to meet. If you provide stability, she criticizes your lack of excitement or ambition. If you are attractive, she criticizes your resources. She might start passive-aggressively comparing your lifestyle to the expensive trips she took with a high-income ex, or she may criticize your friends or your hobbies as being boring or immature. This isn't about improving you. It's about her deep subconscious resentment that she had to choose stability over the exhilarating high-value men who never chose her back for commitment. A crucial manifestation of this chronic dissatisfaction is the subtle but constant testing of boundaries. She has learned that relationship boundaries are fluid and easily broken as long as she has another option waiting. If you provide stability, she creates instability because that is the emotional environment her brain recognizes as exciting. A stable man is boring. A reactive man provides the drama she equates with passion. Her history has trained her that when conflict arises, the solution is always termination and replacement, not resolution and repair. She has never developed healthy conflict resolution skills because she never needed them. The fifth critical sign is her absolute inability to take genuine responsibility for her relationship history. This goes beyond mere defensiveness. It is a deep psychological need to maintain a victim narrative. She never takes ownership of her own consistent patterns of choice. The prioritization of superficial qualities, status, excitement, looks, over character and stability. This victim framework is necessary for her current performance. You will hear this victimhood in her storytelling. Every ex-partner is either a narcissist, a commitment phobe, a loser, or emotionally unavailable. This lack of accountability signals a woman who is not introspective and has not genuinely changed. Genuine transformation requires recognizing one's own contribution to past failures. The sixth pattern, often missed by the emotionally invested man, is the subtle but continuous maintenance of orbiters or backup options. A woman accustomed to having a constant stream of attention and options finds it psychologically terrifying to transition to having only one committed male partner. Even when committed to you, she maintains a roster of men she can activate if the relationship becomes difficult or if she needs an ego boost. This doesn't necessarily mean physical infidelity, though that risk is significantly higher. These orbiters reinforce her market value, mitigating the psychological terror of feeling locked down or unattractive. You may find her constantly checking social media validation, being overly secretive about texts, or maintaining intense, emotionally intimate friendships with men she claims are completely platonic. The critical point is the insurance policy these men represent. If she's fundamentally committed to you, she will psychologically close the door to these options. She is hedging her bets because deep down, she views stability with you as a risky temporary condition rather than a permanent home. The seventh sign, directly related to her desperation, is the immediate and intense pressure to commingle finances and secure housing. This move is driven by the acute awareness of her approaching biological and financial deadlines. Her high relationship volume often means she dedicated her optimal earning years to unstable living situations, or worse, sacrificed career growth for the excitement of dating. She might push for buying a house together very quickly, leveraging your superior income or stability to secure the investment she never achieved on her own. She might quickly move to merge bank accounts or gain access to your resources, justifying it under the banner of partnership. The red flag here is the disproportionate contribution. This is a transaction disguised as an attachment. She is attempting to secure her financial future before you have enough time to realize that the emotional return on your investment will be minimal. The eighth pattern is the highly performative nature of her newfound femininity and traditional values. You will observe her sudden interest in cooking, homemaking, or being submissive or supportive. This is the bait she uses to attract the stable, provider-focused man she ignored in her 20s. The woman who spent 10 years aggressively pursuing career success and high-status validation does not suddenly wake up at 37 wanting to be a stay-at-home mother. She wants the security a stay-at-home mother represents. Look closely for the cracks in the performance. Her kitchen is immaculate because it's never used. Her social media, prior to meeting you, is a documented history of attention-seeking, provocative outfits and a celebration of independence, the polar opposite of the role she is currently trying to play. The performance will eventually end, usually the moment the wedding ring is secured or the child is born. At that point, the true, deeply independent and entitlement-driven personality reasserts itself, leaving you married to a woman who fundamentally does not value the roles she promised to fulfill. The ninth, and perhaps most devastating sign of a high body count, is the fundamental absence of genuine sexual desire for the settling partner, often masked by duty or performance. Her history has established a rigid preference for high-status, exciting, and often unattainable men. While she can perform intimacy, the deep, passionate desire that drives a healthy sexual relationship is often absent because she reserves that genuine desire for the archetype of the high-value men she used to chase. Over time, this manifests as withholding intimacy, using sex as a tool or a bargaining chip, or a general lack of enthusiasm in the bedroom. You will feel that you are owed intimacy rather than desired for it. You are getting the leftovers, her physical presence and legal commitment, while the most passionate, desirable version of herself was given away freely to men who never committed to her. This dynamic ensures that your marriage, built on necessity rather than desire, will be fundamentally poisoned by her chronic lack of respect and her lingering subconscious resentment toward you for representing the life she settled for. This is why pattern recognition is not misogyny. It is necessary self-preservation. We have established the psychological devastation caused by relationship instability and the signs she cannot hide. You deserve clarity, and you deserve a true partner, not a strategic repositioning disguised as a second chance. We are unlocking truths the world actively hides from you. Truths that protect your time, your money, and your emotional stability. Write this: the performance always fades. When you type that phrase, you join a community of men who prioritize reality over fantasy. Now, solidify that choice. If you are serious about navigating the modern relationship landscape successfully and avoiding costly, long-term mistakes, you need to be part of this community. Subscribe now. The next phase of this exploration will reveal exactly how to vet a woman's true history during the early stages of dating, detailing the specific questions and scenarios that force her to drop the performance, exposing the truth before you invest a single day more than necessary. You will discover the practical tools to test her integrity and accountability. Stay connected. We have journeyed through the subtle tells, the undeniable psychological shifts, and the biological deadlines that expose the reality of a woman's past. We have dissected the performance of the "I'm ready now" phase, recognizing that the sudden interest in stability is often driven by the closing of a biological window, not genuine character transformation. The story doesn't end with recognition. It ends with the final, irrefutable evidence. This is where the signs we've discussed coalesce into a definitive pattern, a code that, once cracked, reveals the total cost of her history, a cost that you, the stable man, are being implicitly asked to pay. We are moving beyond the behavioral indicators to the fundamental psychological damage that makes long-term, satisfying partnership nearly impossible for women who have prioritized exploration and promiscuity during their peak years. Before we lock down the final, most crucial signs and deliver the ultimate conclusion, I want to establish our connection. We are talking about uncomfortable truths that require clarity and focus. Drop your current city in the comments below. Let me know where this critical information is landing. Now let's look at the remaining definitive indicators. The signs that prove the true body count isn't just a number. It's a foundational structural weakness in her capacity for commitment. This sign is less about quantity and more about quality, the quality of connection. Intimacy is designed by nature to be a pair bonding mechanism, flooding the brain with oxytocin, creating a deep, singular attachment. But for a woman whose history involves numerous partners, that biological pair bonding mechanism is often dulled, fractured, or completely deactivated. There is a performance quality to her affection, a mechanical action that lacks the deep, reciprocal vulnerability essential for marital satisfaction. She may be physically present, but emotionally, she is miles away. She may require specific scenarios, external stimuli, or aggressive demands to feel anything, because the natural, simple joy of connecting with her man is no longer enough to trigger a deep response. The ultimate tell here is the lack of genuine curiosity about your emotional connection during intimacy, and an overwhelming focus on surface-level execution. Her past taught her that the physical act is transactional and disposable. She cannot simply switch that deeply ingrained psychological framework to sacred and singular, regardless of the wedding ring on her finger. This inherent emotional inaccessibility becomes a severe impediment to developing genuine soul-level rapport, reducing the foundation of your marriage to duty and obligation rather than passion and desire. This is the tragic toll of comparison disease manifesting in the bedroom. Relationships, especially successful marriages, require immense skill in conflict resolution. A woman with an extensive history of instability and serial relationships, however, has developed the opposite skill set. Her default setting is the exit strategy. She never had to develop the emotional maturity necessary to work through difficult periods because she always had the option of an upgrade or a replacement waiting. In your relationship, this manifests as an immediate, disproportionate threat of abandonment during minor disagreements. She views commitment not as an absolute bond, but as a contract she can void when the benefits package temporarily declines. This instability creates a pervasive anxiety in the man who committed to her, forcing him into constant emotional performance to avoid triggering her exit behavior. She never practiced permanence when it mattered, and now, when the stakes are highest, she defaults to what is most familiar. The final and most undeniable sign is the calculated effort she makes to erase or obscure the details of her life before you. She will acknowledge her choices, explain the growth, and show remorse for the consequences without becoming defensive. The woman who is settling, who is performing change out of necessity, engages in strategic scrubbing. When you ask reasonable questions about her timeline, her previous living situations, or the duration and nature of her past relationships, she becomes intensely vague, defensive, or even aggressively accuses you of being controlling, insecure, or obsessed with the past. This aggression is not honesty. It is a tactical defense mechanism designed to prevent you from collecting data that would objectively change your decision to commit. Why the intense need to hide the number, the type of men, or the nature of her peak years? She knows her true history reduces her perceived value in the marketplace of long-term commitment. Her frantic effort to conceal her biography is the clearest possible admission that she is consciously aware of the high cost of her past choices and is actively trying to make you pay for the commitment without receiving the full transparency you deserve. The cover-up is the crime. The evasion is the evidence. You now have the complete code. The most insidious part of the "I'm ready now" phase is the inherent resentment that poisons the foundation of the relationship. She resents you because she knows she is settling for stability instead of the intense, visceral attraction she prioritized when she had better options. And crucially, She resents herself for the biological and social panic that forced her hand, leading to a constant, underlying dissatisfaction that no amount of kindness or provision from you can ever truly resolve. You are the solution to her problem, a problem she engineered, and she will always treat you with a subtle disdain that reflects her disappointment in her own diminished options. You will be held to the standard of the excitement and passion she enjoyed with men who never committed, yet you are the one burdened with the expectation of lifetime provision. We need to understand this truth not as an attack, but as essential risk management. Your future, your finances, your happiness, and the psychological health of your children depend entirely on your ability to recognize and reject this pattern. 1. Commitment to the performance. You can choose to ignore the 9 signs, marry the woman, and prepare for a marriage defined by comparison, resentment, and a constant low-level emotional war rooted in her settling for you. The statistics on divorce and marital satisfaction strongly advise against this. 2. 3. Strategic withdrawal. You can choose to maintain casual relationships only, preserving your resources and emotional well-being, or seek partnership outside Western cultural dynamics where the promiscuity script has not yet caused such widespread damage. What you cannot afford to do is commit based on hope, emotion, or the mainstream cultural lie that love conquers all psychological and biological consequences. That lie benefits everyone except you. If this conversation gave you the clarity to name the patterns you've been sensing, to finally put words to the dynamic you've experienced with women in this ready now phase, then you are part of a community of men committed to reality. We recognize the code. To solidify this realization, I want you to share a phrase in the comments below. The phrase is simple, direct, and non-negotiable. I see the code. Drop it now. Show the world that you are no longer operating in confusion. We exist to provide the crucial, uncomfortable truths that the mainstream system hides from you to protect their own interests. You deserve to make informed decisions that protect your legacy. Subscribe to this channel immediately. We do not negotiate on truth, we deliver it. This channel is your shield against modern deception. And understand this, everything we have covered today about the signs of past choices only leads us to the ultimate step in self-protection. We are going to expose the most common legal and financial traps set for successful men. Stay locked in. The next level of protection is already waiting for you.